Welcome to Libertarian Atheist Skypecast. Today is Thursday, May 25th, 2017. And today we have Jeremy, Heather, Betsy, Curran, and John. How's it going, everybody?
Well, very well.
Good. Hi.
All right. A few topics we're going to cover this evening. Let's start with probably the biggest piece of news is the terror attack at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester in the UK. 22 people died. I don't know off the top of my head how many were injured, but several dozen more. And it was a British citizen, I believe of Lebanese descent. Is that correct? Am I right so far, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
He was born in Manchester, so yeah.
Yeah, so he's a UK citizen. I knew that.
Okay, so
UK citizen, Lebanese descent.
there we go. Great. Now, so this is whenever something like this happens, a lot of topics for debate get brought up: immigration, whether or not Islam and Islamic culture is inherently bad, I guess. So basically, kind of thinking that we can kind of riff on that for a while. I think, for starters, how important is the topic of immigration to this incident, since this was a British citizen?
Right. They've also arrested 8 additional men in connection with the attack, and I don't know if they're all citizens or what. But
ISIS claimed responsibility, so ISIS claims that they were involved.
Well, and supposedly his brother and his father were detained in Libya because of it, and I don't know if that's just as a safety precaution or whether that was, related to the attack itself. So.
Right.
I think it goes to the point that borders can't stop ideas.
Yeah, very true.
Absolutely. Right, and I mean, basically on a daily basis in various libertarian groups, because, although Libertarian Atheist is my favorite, because of you guys, I do a lot of discussion in other libertarian groups throughout Facebook and social media, and
Are you hearing some feedback?
a little bit, yeah. But the idea of closed borders as being a way to secure a libertarian society is really popular as of late, which is something
I find that naive.
I do. I agree. I don't think that's it's too simple of an answer, I guess. It's not a whole lot of thought put behind it, because
it's late, like you said. It's lazy. It's like saying everybody's willing to make that Faustian deal with the devil. Well, I'll violate my principles in this area to secure the greater good of my principles in that area, and of course, it always goes to hell.
Right. And there's just a whole lot of issues with that line of thinking. A lot of times the argument is that only Western civilization really values liberty, and that's why we need to keep out people that aren't Westerners. Which, really just is extremely lazy, because there's clearly no effort put into analyzing various cultures throughout history, whether it's from the Middle East or the Orient or whatever.
So what do you think would happen if America just and I guess this is getting into the interventionist stuff, but if we did completely hands off and did nothing about these things, what would happen in Afghanistan and all these other countries? Would the Taliban and ISIS just pretty much take over?
Well, my short answer to that question is I don't care what would happen to...
Well, I know, okay.
I don't care what would happen if we pulled out.
I mean,
speculatively.
so the broader answer would be, if you care about that, then you personally, as an individual, take steps to ameliorate that situation.
right.
But you don't get to tell everybody else that they must take up your cause as well. I mean, and there's another issue to this. It's kind of like you're caring, so you want those poor kids in China to make more money.
Right.
Because they're slave labor, and it's, and if you oppose that in favor of your free markets, then you obviously hate poor Chinese children and want them to be your slave labor, without understanding that this is a process that they are going to have to go to, that there's no jump starts on, and that if you are the concerned person that wants them to see progress, then you have to allow them to go through this. Because demanding that they all get paid $15 an hour means they have no jobs, and they're worse off.
Right.
Absolutely.
I know that's not a one-for-one correlation, but I'm just saying, you cannot impose. I mean, I would think we've got plenty of examples now of why imposing your values on other people is a disaster.
Yeah, I especially think it's true probably. Well, I mean, it's been true throughout the centuries with many religious groups, but it always seems to be religious, in nature. They're the ones we always have to seem to worry about. I mean, it's always their ideology that's the most disconcerting. So
Islamic terrorism, though, is really, and it's been shown to be quasi-religious. I mean, they use religion, they use Islam to justify their actions, and Muhammad was a warlord, and there's a lot of warlike rhetoric in the Quran.
Totally. You're
But
right.
they take it to such an extreme that suggests that there's something else there, and there's a lot of evidence for that. Basically, whether it's pan-Arab nationalism or it's wanting to establish, reestablish the caliphates that were of old, that were kind of in the heyday of Islam. Wanting to return to that, level of power. They're not pious groups. They're really interested in power first and foremost, in my opinion.
I guess I don't care what the motivation behind it is. I don't care if it's religion. I don't care if it's what have you. I mean, a long time ago, the Germans thought, you know what? We should have more power than these other guys. In fact, these other guys shouldn't exist. And then later the communists thought, you know what? These rich people shouldn't have the power. We should have the power. And these other guys shouldn't actually even exist. And then a religious group came along and said, you know what? These non-believers shouldn't have the power. We should have all the power. And in fact, these other guys shouldn't exist. And if they had unfettered access to have their way implemented, SJWs would say, you know what, these majority groups exist to exert their power over us. They shouldn't have their power.
That's blatantly what they say, though, John. That's exactly what they're. I mean, they're naked about it. They make no bones about it. It's like, we want to basically destroy all the existing power structures and replace them with our own.
I absolutely agree, but I guess what I'm saying is it's just a broken record with a different tune.
yeah, it's all about violating, someone else's rights, essentially, at the end of the day.
For your own selfish interests.
You can try to pretend that it's a different song, but it's just a different singer.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Good analogy.
And I mean, it seems like a lot of ideologies boil down to that anyway. We're right. We want to basically dominate, discourse and thought because, we believe that we're...
That
I know, like...
everybody else is wrong.
I know Jordan Peterson is really big on, like, the dangers of ideology. And he's right, but what he said struck me as very... he's like, all ideologies are they're just evil when they have their way, and they have their unfettered way, and I thought, well, I consider myself an an idealist. I consider libertarianism to be an ideology. What is it? If what he's saying holds true, then I should be wary. And I keep thinking, you know what? I don't think that's true. I mean, as an ideology, we're the only ones that say never initiate violence.
Right.
And let people have their life and live it the way they want, so long as it's not hurting you.
Yep. As long as it doesn't directly affect you in any way, then just let it be.
That's what I find amusing about
the NAP.
Yeah, that's what I find the most amusing about Jordan Peterson is he says that he doesn't like ideologies, but he's kind of an ideologue in his own right. So, I mean, does he hate his own beliefs?
I mean, I guess it's like, I could see you making a case for why pacifism is bad,
It certainly is, I agree.
Right. I mean, it feels like it's right, but, it's not. It's a recipe for disaster. So, I think libertarianism is a philosophy that says, unless you're being directly threatened or directly violated, let them do it. And in that sense,
exactly
I don't view it as an extreme ideology. I think it is a perfectly compatible ideology to hold.
Yeah, I mean, that's war, really, of, libertarianism.
I think
what's an extremist libertarian going to do?
Leave him the fuck alone?
He's going to build your roads on his own dime.
My roads on my own dime.
I like how we both actually had, like, diametrically opposing answers. He said, leave me the fuck alone, and I said, McNukes. So, I mean...
That's it. We have to get divorced now.
Oh, you stepped on my property. I'm going to nuke you now.
Yep.
I mean, if we're going to be, like, critical of libertarianism, I mean, I think if someone just, shuts their brain off and becomes an extremist about property rights, that's where it can get screwy, because some people want to have a very fundamentalist definition.
Yeah,
of
I suppose
rights.
You're right there. I'll have to concede that there are some wingnuts in there.
Yeah.
You got the tinfoil hat, people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically the people that like, okay, it's like if I have 40 acres of land and your dog shits on it, I can shoot you in the face. So that's the kind of that's the kind of extremism I'm talking about. And I mean, people like that exist, unfortunately. They see themselves as being so principled that they have to.
Hey, there was a guy that shot the other guy in the foot for taking his iPhone.
I mean, that's more justified than using lethal force for dog shit on the lawn.
Yeah. I don't know. Dog shit's pretty gross.
I mean, I know Walter Block brought up an example of a guy is living in a high-rise. He's leaning out the window and he falls out. And on his way down, he grabs onto a flagpole of the tenant who lives underneath him. And she pulls out a shotgun and says, "Let go." And who has the moral right to say? I mean, does he as a libertarian, is he required to let go and drop to his death, or can he violate her rights in this instance?
And what's the answer?
There isn't a solid one, right? I mean, it'd be nice if we could wrap it all up in a bow and say that here's the pat answer, but there isn't. I mean, to me, it goes back to somebody made the reference of the John Q. Public movie, that Denzel Washington, my kid's going to die if he doesn't get a transplant, but I can't afford it.
Yeah.
To me, it goes back to if it were me, I'd violate her rights. And then if the police go, okay, you have to do 30 days community service. Okay, I'm alive.
Right.
I'm alive. I'm willing to accept those consequences. I guess I would just say, if you're going to violate the rights, just be cognizant of the fact that you might have to accept the consequences that come from that.
Exactly.
I guess you could argue he's violating her property rights, but wouldn't she be violating basically his right to live by?
But she's not required to maintain that. That's like saying you could be charged if you weren't a good Samaritan. You see somebody dying on the side of the road and you don't stop to help them, therefore you're violating his right to life.
Yeah.
Or like saying ISIS is killing innocent women and children, we need to go over there and bomb them. I mean, isn't that similar? Like, we're watching them do stuff to innocent people, but non-intervention is what we should do.
I don't know if you could put all that under the same umbrella, though.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, that's.
It's like not acting to save someone. I mean, I guess it's not that closely related. Never mind. But like you said, we're not required to rescue everybody at any cost. I mean,
yeah. I don't know. There's all kinds of examples you could invoke. I mean, let's say you have you have a piece of property in the middle of the desert and it has a well and it's the only source of water for 10 miles, and in a 10-mile radius someone gets lost in the desert and steals water out of your well. I mean, is that a violation of your property rights that would justify you using force to deter or punish that person for taking your water? I mean, you could examples like that you could go on forever with, really.
sure. But if, like, there was that case of the cattle or the rancher down on the Mexican border a few years ago where they were busted, the immigrants, the illegals coming in were busting open his cattle watering things and drinking it, and he was having to repair them and replace them over and over, and eventually I hope I'm not mixing this one up, but he ended up taking a bunch of them, like tying them up and calling the authorities and stuff because they were damaging his property, but they were dying of thirst, so
Yeah.
In my view, he had the right to stop them,
He
they
did.
were definitely
He did, and it's because
trespassing.
he did, and it's because I think you can't have this unmovable position constantly. You have to basically take in all the facts
That's right, in each situation.
in each situation. Right.
And if I could be permitted to play that guy, the libertarian, that guy.
Okay.
In a libertarian world, the courts would take that into account.
That's right.
The private eye.
But I guess my position on that would be the guy who breaks into a pharmacy after it's closed at night to save his wife's life, to get medicine that saves her life.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm the pharmacy owner, okay. But by the way, you now owe me for a new window and some medicine.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, I'm not heartless if I come in the next day and find out what happened and why it happened. Okay. But the consequence is that you at least owe me a new window.
That's right.
Absolutely. There has to be some sort of arbitration to carry that out.
So we agree that there probably shouldn't be, that border issues would not stop any of this.
I don't think
And
so.
in fact, this guy, I was reading the bomber had passed through Turkey and one other country right before he had crossed 3 different borders right before he blew up at the concert. So I mean, it doesn't stop people even when there are border laws.
So the other argument I hear a lot is, yes, we agree there should be a borderless society. However, we live in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
However, affect us in the real world and work in the real world, and therefore we have to do this. And I guess I find that...
I kind of agree with that. That's one of the reasons I'm not quite on board on everything that...
And that's where I can't agree, though. I can't agree with that for several reasons. Number one, if that's your position, then how are you going to make a logical argument against single-payer healthcare?
Right.
Yeah, we should have free, we should have free market healthcare, except we don't live in that world. So therefore, we should just accept the fact that this, we need to get the healthcare we need. So let's just go forward with single health. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, if your argument is one of convenience rather than one of principle, I think you've lost the
Well, I don't know if it's
argument.
convenience. I mean,
Practicality. If your argument is one of practicality, you've lost the argument.
Would you call it utilitarianism, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, if it boils down to pragmatic, you're done. And secondly, if somebody's rights are being violated, you can't say, once again, it's like, yeah, I recognize that that's a violation of human rights, but I'm going to prop up the state in this instance because X, Y, Z. You're literally taking the side of the state and telling it, yeah, I'm approving of you violating these rights.
I would.
To protect the mind, of course.
I'd agree with that. Certainly.
I'm not saying there's an easy answer. There isn't. But I mean, if we're going to be ideologically consistent, then we need to be ideologically consistent.
Well, when it comes to, I mean, terrorism seems to be happening most often in Europe, and I mean, there's good reason for it. The geographical proximity to the Middle East. Naturally, they're going to get the most influx of refugees. But I mean, that's the problem too. Is, I mean, it's not. It is a culture clash to a point, but the big problem is that you have 10 million people coming in overnight. You know, that's just disruptive. It doesn't matter who it is.
right.
But again, why are they doing that? Why are those 10 million people flooding into Germany or Sweden? Why aren't they, for example, flooding into Turkey? I mean, they flood into Turkey, but only to flood right back out.
Right.
So why are they flooding into Germany and Sweden and areas like that?
So you're saying they're attracted by the welfare, basically?
I would suggest so. Yeah.
Yeah. That would make sense.
To me, that seems logical. I mean,
It's safe, and they're going to
many
get
of these guys
they're going to get their
don't
needs
show.
met.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, what they are doing is logical, right? It is consistent with reason. Why do you have a microwave in your house? Why don't you cook in a stone kiln? Because all of humanity is a relentless push towards, I want to make my life easier. You know, the welfare queen kind of thing?
Yeah.
Right.
Why should I work? People hate her, right? And I don't hate her. She is logical. What she is doing is she weighed her options and she said, if I go and work this crappy job, I'll have a worse standard of living than if I stay and keep on the dole of the government. She made a logical choice. The solution is not to hate on her. It's to hate the incentives that made that choice logical for her.
Mm-hmm.
That does. I mean, yeah.
So how do you change that? I mean, it just seems like
you have to direct your energy at the incentives, not at the actors taking those incentives into account. You're never going to, I mean, it's like trying to stop the war on drugs. You're never going to stop the demand side. You're never going to stop it. Black markets will always exist, or in the case of the state, it's always going to provide it. You cannot focus your energy on the demand side because it's a losing battle 100% of the time. And even if it's the more pragmatic solution in the short run, it leads to disaster in the long run, and it won't work anyway.
right.
It could be because of the social programs. It could, I mean, take example, Haitians, after that earthquake, I believe that was that 2012 that they had that devastating earthquake in Haiti?
I think so.
Yes.
So most of the refugees from that ended up in the Dominican Republic. Why not come to the United States where there's, you know, more prosperity and better funded social programs, you know, I mean.
Because for them, culture was more important. Being among like-minded, you know, I mean, not everybody who lives in Syria is in Europe now.
I mean, it seems like their neighboring countries are actively trying to keep them out. That's one thing. The Saudis are, you know, they don't want the Syrians. They made that pretty clear.
Let me put it to you this way: if the United States crumbled today, which country would you immigrate to, legally or otherwise?
Probably
Canada.
Canada, just because of
Canada,
proximity.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to
New
Mexico.
Zealand.
Where?
You'd go.
New Zealand.
That'd be nice.
I get the hell away from the cracked up U.S. Far away as possible.
Right, but I'm just saying. I mean, like the obvious choice would be let's go to America light.
Yeah.
Right. Versus going south. I mean, if you're talking closest proximity.
If I lived on a border state down south, though, I might consider Mexico. I mean, if I had to get the hell out of America, like, instantly.
Yeah, and some would, but
Yeah.
I think a majority of people, I mean, yeah, people aren't monoliths. I'm just saying that's the logical. Hey, let's go to Canada.
Yeah.
Not everybody would, but I think a vast majority would.
And would they let us in?
Well, and there you go then, and then we're back to the
Yep,
to the
back
issue.
to that whole. I mean, if millions of Americans were flooding to them,
If
what
a
would
civil
happen?
war, yeah.
Interesting.
If
I
a
mean,
civil war broke out and I want to get the hell out of Dodge,
right?
and I go to Canada and Canada says nope,
Yep.
why? Because we have to protect our people. So I get what you're saying. I'm not ignorant of the fact that there are millions of people and they can't absorb that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that the policies that are in place, they're not actually in place, but if they put a policy in place that says absolutely not, it's going to lead to worse consequences all around.
Mm-hmm.
In the long term, right? In the short term, you've got, we figured it out, but in the long term, it's going to go south on you. It's going to flip upside down. The solution is to not make your place look so attractive to free, I hate to use this term, but the free riders.
Right?
Sweden is successful somewhat with its welfare system because it's culturally homogenous and it's small. Its population is small. So they can look at each other and go, you're a free rider. And there's this public condemnation on it, right? But if a bunch of other people come in that have no cultural similarity, that don't care about being looked down on in public, then there's no disincentive for them.
And I believe in Sweden, though, they've had immigrant problems as of late, though, probably the past couple of years. Wasn't there an alleged, gang rape incident?
Yes, you're right.
So, and apparently perpetrated by Muslim immigrants. I'd have to look up the details of that, but we can move on. We're going to also discuss. This was a story linked, actually, by John. So we're going to go to the Kentucky court ruling protects artists' free speech and religious liberty. So.
That was a good article. And then I found another one that even goes into more detail that I just posted, but I don't know if anybody's had time to read it. But it goes into some other court cases that support the difference between discriminating against a person and discriminating against what that person is asking you to do.
Mm-hmm. Right. So.
And they're two different things. And
right, so we'll kind of just go through here. So the article by Samuel Green for the dailysignal.com is where this was linked to. Again, Kentucky court ruling protects artists' free speech, religious liberty, and article starts off, when should a business owner's decision be condemned as illegal discrimination? Imagine a print shop owned by a devout atheist. A Muslim woman wearing a hijab walks up to the shop and orders a sign saying, Allahu Akbar, Allah is greater than all. Scenario A, shop owner sees a woman's hijab when she walks to the door and yells, religious nuts aren't welcome here, get out. Scenario B, the shop owner sees the woman and asks her how he can help her. When he learns about the message she wants him to convey on the sign, he says, I'm sorry, I'm an atheist and I can't promote the idea that any God is great, but I can refer you to a shop that will create the sign. So there's what basically sets up the incident. And this resulted in a court case. So basically, the gentleman was sued for, I believe, racial discrimination was the assertion.
No, I would say that any discrimination for any reason, even if it's totally stupid, is still allowable.
It is.
Right.
I mean, now you're trying to become the arbiter of what is and is not a valid discrimination. You know, that's like it's unwinnable. Who gets to be the one that decides? It's dumb. You can't. I'm not saying that the reason has to be valid. I'm not saying any reason can be valid. I'm just saying that's the individual's decision, and they have to accept the consequences of it.
Yeah, I remember. It doesn't seem like I actually see this often, but I remember seeing businesses quite regularly having the sign posted, we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone.
Right.
Which,
I mean, I remember even before the lesbian cake thing, there was the Adolf Hitler cake.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
yeah,
There was the kid the parents named their kid Adolf Hitler, and then the family came in and said, we want a cake that says Happy Birthday Adolf Hitler.
They wouldn't make a cake.
And the bakery was like, hell no.
that guy,
Oh my God.
that father in that family, he was recently in the news once again, actually, and he was in full Nazi uniform in court.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so yeah, the store wouldn't make that Happy Birthday Adolf Hitler cake.
Poor kid. Oh my gosh.
I mean, you know, if you wanna say that's wrong, that I don't know. I mean, it's
Okay,
stupid.
judge that.
That's an idea, right? That's an idea.
Right.
It's no different than any other idea. So who gets to be the arbiter on, yes, you can discriminate on that idea, but not for this other idea?
Right.
There's always the emotional and psychological abuse argument that comes from extremist parenting like that. I don't know.
It sets the kid up for abuse, really, that is undeserved, you know.
Yeah, but think
But
about
he can also start going by AH or something. He can shorten his name pretty quick if he wants, or...
So there's like two possibilities. He abhors it because of all the crap he gets for it and runs away from it. Or he becomes an extremist himself.
Yeah, he's indoctrinated right from the beginning.
But let's look at the alternative. He gets pulled out of the house by
Child protection.
by Child Protective Services. What happens to him then?
Right. Probably
Is
will.
the outcome better? Come on, bud.
Are we going to get to hear the play?
No, I'm just picking my son up. Sorry, guys.
I don't know. I figured you were talking to your son. No problem.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, honestly, I think for various extenuating circumstances, let's try and cram this episode into an hour. Do it short.
Okay.
So we got about 20 minutes left. Now, where were we? Not that I rudely interrupted everyone. Oh, yes. Arvind Vohra's comments. He's vice chair of the National Libertarian Party.
That's right.
Had inflammatory things to say about
He said
military
about
service.
yeah, and he mostly has talked about the military. So yeah.
Larry Sharp was really offended by it. Had a really long post about it. This wasn't the original post, but it does it's another post by him that sums up what he said. And dang it, I should have wrote down the date this was posted because it's not on the screenshot. But
Was it the one you posted?
yeah,
In the message? Hold on,
yeah,
let me
in our
see.
group message.
Let me go back and look at that. Hold
But
on a
this it's not
Oh.
the date when I posted it is not when this is
minute. No.
a Facebook
'cause
post
it
that he
says
did from
5 hours on it.
yeah the Facebook post that I'm talking about was probably made about a month ago.
Okay.
This controversy's been going on quite a while, I guess. So his status is a common excuse to join the military. Despite disagreeing with every single thing that it does, the military pays for college. Translation, I agreed to kill innocent people because I wanted the money. That type of decision-making is below the lowest threshold of any kind of morality that I know of. Financial benefits do not justify killing strangers and destroying countries. Before you join the military, the DEA or any other organizations that use violence, first decide if you actually agree with their mission. If you do not, I wanted the money is not a moral excuse at all. Hashtag military intelligence. That was one of the Facebook statuses that they had that was really controversial.
Yeah. He was already kind of, I guess, kind of in hot water over the whole, like when they did the religious quotes thing and he did the Satanic Temple.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that part.
Oh yeah, it was a big
Is
thing
that
on
earlier?
it was a big thing on LA too, and I posted pictures because it was like, I don't know, the LP around Easter time posted like different quotes from different religious organizations, and even like quotes like Frank Zappa said, and then he did a Satanic Temple quote, and of course the ultra conservative wing of libertarianism just blew their minds.
Right,
They're
sure.
very triggered.
But he was the one behind all those.
Okay.
And of course, people are up in arms because of his position with the National Party. I mean, he's obviously
Right.
has pretty high status within the party. But I mean, as far as libertarian principles go, nothing he said was wrong.
Right.
He made valid points every time. Honestly, from
Yeah.
what I've reviewed.
I mean, I think that anyway, one of the things that we stand for is personal liberty and things like that, and freedom of speech has always been a big thing too.
Is John gone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
Oh, I didn't see.
it's Curran and Betsy and yeah, I just saw him drop off like a minute ago. So
Right.
Well, I mean, his comment about is everybody that gets shot in a military thing an innocent person? I mean, are they not fighting people that are trying to kill
but they're not.
them and other people? I mean, I guess
I
take
wouldn't call it
issue with-
self-defense. I mean, I think self-defense totally falls under the NAP, but I don't think I don't know if you could call that self-defense. I mean,
Is that a
if
mission?
if you're thrown in that situation and then you have to kill somebody or be killed, then yeah. But I mean, who put him in that situation in the first place? I don't know. It's
I'm just still struggling with what I think about the whole military thing because I'm newer than the rest of you are to libertarianism. So I'm just still not sure what I believe about it all.
It's hard. I mean, you have to. I mean, I think we all think that some kind of military thing would be good, but in a private sector, not
Well,
Not
I mean,
government
at the very
mandated.
minimum, if you're going to at least take the minarchist stance, you want military to be concentrated on defense of the homeland. So you would basically withdraw out of all foreign conflicts.
Unless they came here to engage us.
Yes.
Right. So,
Okay.
Yeah, you simply have one merely for protection. You'd have one to help protect your own country.
Now,
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I can see the value in that. So if conflict's happening anywhere else in the world, that country needs to fund it and fight it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no matter how much we wanted to step in, we just can't be the world police. You
Right.
know?
I wonder how much warfare is economically driven, though. Really,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think this war is just raging on.
You mean the
'cause-
production of the things needed for it and the companies that are dependent upon it and
Yeah,
stuff?
it's definitely those military contractors. It's just
That-
it's a
in
big
addition
business.
to that, there's always the spoils of war too. I mean, that's always
Well, it seems like the U.S. doesn't take much of the spoils. We end up going in and paying to rebuild their entire nation. I mean, what do we get monetarily anymore? I mean, I don't know. I'm not aware on what the spoils would be for us other than glory if we win.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the Middle East stuff is, to protect our oil interests. I mean, I don't think
Right,
that's
right.
I don't think that's a
That's-
stretch. So we're doing what we can to keep our oil supplies. We're heavily dependent upon it. So
absolutely. Although, I mean, a few different things. There's a lot of North American oil anymore, thanks to the tar
Right.
sands in Canada. I think that's actually the largest piece of the oil market is the tar sands oil from right up there in Canada. So,
I mean, you need it, I think. Go ahead, Kern.
Kern?
Oh, I thought he was going to say something. I can't hear him.
Yeah. You still here, Kern?
I can see him, but maybe something's wrong with the audio.
Yeah. Could be. Or maybe he stepped away for a minute. I do that from time to time.
Just walk away and leave us hanging.
Sometimes you gotta go to the bathroom. Sometimes you're making supper.
Exactly.
Yep. Oh, you know what? I did want to bring up the fact that Jeremy and I both sit on the board of the Douglas County Libertarian Party, and they've decided that moving our meetings to Thursday nights would work better for everyone. So I was wondering if you guys wouldn't mind moving the Skypecast to Wednesday. Just do a flip.
Wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah, because there's not really much difference between the two, so I was like, I don't think it's really going to make a lot of difference.
Fine.
So, okay, yeah, I'll start setting them for Wednesdays. So,
okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So stay tuned, everybody. They'll now be on Wednesday nights. So, of course, they just get to hear it recorded anyway. But
yeah, our huge numbers of views that we get on YouTube.
we're like practically famous.
I have never even gone through it.
Yeah, I don't listen to them. So I'm like, well, I lived through it, so I don't feel the need to listen to it, But
we have got a few listens, but
we have.
Not that.
Yeah, it's not that fascinating. But I'm trying to invite some more people to participate. I've made a couple individual invitations. So we'll see if we can get it a little bit bigger, be more interesting.
For sure.
So what else about that Arvin Vora guy is, because he's totally new to me.
Yeah, he's like the vice chair, I think, of the Libertarian Party,
the
National Libertarian Party.
Yep.
So he's a big wig in the Libertarian Party.
There's I've been reading through a lot of the comments, and I can see what you mean by controversy. There's a lot of people that really are.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, like, one of our admins, he's also big in the Libertarian Party here in Nebraska, except down a county down south from us, and he's mad. He's really pissed off that people aren't supporting Vornara. They're really upset about that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, we should always, support free speech, and, and everyone's like, well, we're not trying to, knock. I'm like, but yeah, you kind of are. You're wanting to censor him. You're wanting him to
stop saying.
Yeah, and redact it. Yes. And he kind of redacted it somewhat. Like, he did issue an apology statement, and it wasn't. I mean, he didn't
on the military thing.
Yeah, and he didn't back off of his position. All he simply said was that he realizes that words, can hurt, and words can say, So he was basically saying that he would carefully think about how he worded things from now on.
Sure.
Thinking about, just mindfulness, I guess. So, I mean, it's kind of an apology and kind of not an apology.
Right. Well, it's an admission that he might change the way that he's coming across.
I think he's admitting. I think what he's saying is that, I'll change the way I project what I'm saying, but my message hasn't changed and my views haven't changed. And I think that's a good thing to say. So
it is.
Yeah, because he shouldn't.
And it can make a difference because, as we all know,
he should always. He needs to just back up his own position.
Will alienate someone, or it can make them think about their own position. And there's, the same issue, but the outcome is totally different depending on how you come across. That's why that street epistemology approach to dealing with religious people is so using Socratic questioning versus just telling them why they're wrong. It's so much more. It's hard, a lot harder to do, but you're still getting across the same ideas.
Right. It's just how you present it.
Exactly.
And it is like packaging, because
it sure is.
You don't have very long to make that first impression. You don't have very long to get that other person to engage with you in a meaningful way. So it's like, how do you approach that then, especially if you don't know the person? So
Right.
and I think that's exactly what he was trying to portray.
And he's got so many followers that he's bound to, ruffle. People are all over the place on these issues. Just like I'm kind of still learning as I go, and so it comes up against things that long-held beliefs.
Yeah.
And things you've been taught.
Yep.
And so
and you have to break it.
He has to realize that everybody's not there yet.
No.
And so.
But I completely sympathize with you guys. I always think about that because I was where you were once, and and I struggled with all of that over the years.
Right.
Because you just do, because you really have to rethink how your beliefs or your ideology. You really do. You have to rethink them and you reform them. It kind of is, but it's almost like you're actually thinking much more in a more complex way about things that are presented to you, instead of just dismissing it or just kind of trying to get it. You're like really thoroughly engaging with it and becoming incorporating it into your thoughts, your ideology, because that's
right. And all cultures kind of indoctrinate their members with certain beliefs. When in America, this is what patriotism means. And so you're just raised that way.
Yeah, we all were raised that way.
But just like in a Muslim culture, those children know nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Just like we didn't
until
either.
Right, just like until they see that there's a different way of doing things, a different way of thinking, and then the question is, well, does that way work better?
Mm-hmm.
Is that way more close to truth? And you have to really struggle through all those things.
And you have to pull that rational, common sense, calm person out from inside, and really fully, comprehend things around you, and to really begin to learn things, and because you have to. You got to come in and look at it from different viewpoints and think, okay, you weigh it against this and decide which is better. And so, yeah, it's hard to do that,
It really is. It's painful sometimes. Nobody likes to think that they've ascribed to an ideology or a belief system for years and years, and maybe it wasn't right. I mean, that's painful.
It is. It is.
I mean, that's why leaving religion is so hard for so many people, especially if it's been their entire life.
It becomes a sense of their identity, like their community.
It really does.
It's part of your community, and it's like just part of your whole culture,
Yep, and so it's similar. I mean, and a lot of people don't care about politics and stuff, so it isn't really a part of their identity. But that's sad because they don't even know that it affects them at every level of their life.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess I was fortunate. I always feel that I was fortunate that I came to the realization that I didn't believe in God at a young age. Because even though I still did kind of struggle with it in some ways for into my early 20s a bit, because I think we all do, but I really let loose, I think, then cut the total freedom from that somewhere in my mid 20s. So I've had more time to work with it.
Well, what about politics though? What kind of politics did your parents have? Your dad?
Oh, my dad is a Republican, hardcore Republican. My mom claims to be a Libertarian, but she's not. Only in some ways, maybe. Maybe she's a little Libertarian, but she works for the freaking IRS, so, So I don't let her count it. I'm like, sorry, those two cancel each other out.
She's
Yep.
professional thief.
You are. Taxation is theft. So, yep.
When I worked at the nursing home, we had a resident that had been an IRS guy, examiner or whatever, for his whole career. He was probably late 70s by the time he came in, and he started getting dementia. But he was really afraid. He became totally paranoid. And it really went to the root of being an IRS person, because he thought that everybody hated him because he worked for the IRS. And so he started thinking people were stealing from him, and he put huge chains and locks on all his drawers. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was a really hard situation to deal with, and he finally ended up having to go live in the healthcare center just because he couldn't function. But the paranoia that he developed was sort of cycled around being an IRS person.
Huh.
That's an interesting that a lot of them are aware that he didn't want to tell people that he had worked for the IRS,
Right. Because a lot of people don't like the IRS.
Who likes the IRS?
Nope.
I mean,
Yeah.
anybody?
Right? Not really, you know.
Right. So, but that's the only person I've ever known who actually worked their whole career there.
Yeah. My mom she actually probably, she worked in like, I don't know, my poor mom just kind of, you know, didn't, she did things incorrectly, I guess. I don't know how to put it without sounding, you know,
Yeah.
cruel. But yeah, she hasn't made a lot of good decisions, I guess you could say. And so because of that, you know, she ended up, you know, in her 50s, you know, with no retirement funds, no prospects, and so the IRS would hire her. So she took it because she knew the only thing she was going to get that actually would make her real money and benefits. So, I mean, I get why she did it.
Right. It's self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
sometimes, I mean, that's people do what they have to do.
Mm-hmm. I know. I mean, I work for the state, and you know, I've thought about it. I mean, I obviously don't make the kind of money.
That's right.
I don't.
University.
Yeah, I don't make the kind of money my mother does, but I just kind of figure, well, I guess I'm closer to working to my food chain because I'm just applying
Right.
into it in the first place. So I guess I'll just take a larger advantage of it.
Exactly.
But you know, it's the same kind of thing. You know, it was a good job with good benefits, and so you know, you think you got kids.
I don't
so.
think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's,
Yeah, but
at least
still.
at least you're not in Illinois where the state workers are probably not even going to get their pensions. I mean, the state is so broke and the pension system is so messed up. My brother taught at a junior college here for 15 years, and he doesn't have any idea if he's going to get his pension at all. I mean,
Wow.
it's really terrible.
Wow.
It is awful.
It is, but
Good old
that's what
mismanagement of
happens.
funds.
That's what happens when you trust politicians to manage money.
Yeah. That's a skill that they're not known for at all.
True
Oh
story.
my God. Yep. Well, I'm going to read more of this Arvin. I'm going to follow his stuff because I'm interested.
Arvin Vohra, yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Yep.
I'm glad you suggested him because.
Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely, you know, especially since, you know, if you start getting the Libertarian Party at all, it's like you should, you know, just learn a
Right.
little bit.
Okay, he's a vice chairman. Who's the chairman?
Good question.
Do you even know?
I used
I
to
don't
know.
And this is the Big L Libertarian Party?
Yes.
I mean, this is,
Yes.
Okay. The national.
I can tell you the.
Let me look. Here, I'll just
I
click
can
on
tell you the
Libertarian.
state party.
I know you know that.
Yep.
Interesting.
All right. Let's see here.
I guess Curran must have left.
Yep. That's all right. Or wait a minute. I think he might have just
Still
said.
here.
Nope.
Are
he's
you
here.
there? Oh, you're just silent, but
I've been so busy with stuff that I haven't been able to sit full time.
Nicholas Sarwark.
Sarwark. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that was a tough one. Yeah.
how's that pronounced?
Nicholas Sarwark.
Yes. There we go.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Oh, Nick, I see the ad. Nick on Glenn. I'm on his Facebook, on the Libertarian Party Facebook page. He's going on Glenn Beck,
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Cool.
or he already did. That's an old one.
Yeah, that's all right. All right, so I guess we can wrap up tonight's one, and then next week we can still meet Thursday. That's not a problem because we don't have a county meeting at all. So we can still meet Thursday, or we can just go ahead and start a Wednesday. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want to do.
Let's do Wednesday. I'm leaving for Florida
Okay.
for a week, so Wednesday would be better because I've got a lot to do Thursday night.
Okay, no, that's perfect. We'll just switch to Wednesday then next week.
Okay.
All right, I'll update
Sounds
Facebook.
good.
Yep. All right, good night, guys.
See you later. See ya. Bye.
Night, Karen.